just a few months back, and she is really a very, I must say, very laborious, very hardworking researcher. And I'm very happy to call Monica for presenting report both in English and Hindi.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your kind words. Good evening, today's speaker. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Bishranjan, and I'm presenting the last week's report today. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, beta, audible.
Okay. Okay. The 34th lecture of Research Methodology Online Orientation course was organized on the 9th of November 2020. The 14-day lecture of the 2 days session on the statistical tools, techniques, and approaches and their applications in the social science research was delivered by Professor Aslam Mahmood on the topic titled Measures of Association Part 2. Professor Aslam Mahmood was associated with Jawaharlal Nehru University. He specializes in quantitative methods of geography and demography and taught the subject for more than 35 years at the JNU. His book titled Statistical Method Geographical Studies covers a wide range of techniques commonly used by the economic researcher, analysts, and these presents in a very simplified mathematical languages. He was also a member of advisory board of the Department of Education in the Social Sciences of the National Council of Educational Research and Training, NCERT, New Delhi. The session was moderated by Dr. Jitendra D. Soni, who welcomed the speaker and gave highlights of the Professor Mahmood has started the session with a brief introduction about the statistical analysis and its significance in the social science research. He informed that the correlation regression analysis are the two important approaches of the whole statistical analysis. He also emphasized that the statistical analysis is based on the empirical approaches of social sciences research, and it is bound to follow the theoretical basis. He explored the tendency of scattered plots and analyzed the degree of relationships between two variables through the geographical graphical representation. He explained the degree, direction, as well as 0, 1, positive and negative correlation of the series. Further, he informed about the test of significance, which neutralizes the value of the test. He explained the least square method through ordinary least square regression curve through the graphical presentation. He presented an estimated line between x and y points, which he explained regression of y on x to calculate the square of the least difference between the x and y axis. He gave the equation to find out the value of x and y variables and talked about the statistical steps to calculate the y variable. He also discussed the various methods to calculate the x and y variables, like t-test method, in which he explained various things like standard error, ratio of standard error, the value of p, and the calculation of r square. Professor Mahmood explained the role of R square in the statistical analysis. The R square explains the regression line, which refers to whether it is high, medium, or low powerful. He also discussed how to calculate regression analysis through a formula. The normal distribution and the concept of multicollinearity were also included in the lecture. Further, he explained the binary variables, which is also known as dummy variables, and their calculation through logic regression. Finally, he briefly talked about the special regression, which can be calculated through recently launched GeoDar software. At the end of the session, the participants raised their doubts and queries before him. Some of the important questions were normal distribution, related to geographical metrics, legit probit, etc. Finally, the session was concluded with a brief highlight of the discussion provided by Dr. Jitendra D. Soni. The session was closed with a formal vote of thanks by Dr. Om Prakash Sen. Thank you so much. Now I will represent the report in Hindi also for Hindi participants. अनुसंधान पद्धति ऑनलाइन ओरिएंटेशन कोर्स का 34वां व्याख्यान 9 नवंबर 2020 को आयोजित किया गया था। सामाजिक विज्ञान अनुसंधान में सांख्यिकीय उपकरण, तकनीक और दृष्टिकोण एवं उनके अनुप्रयोगों के 2 दिवसीय सत्र का दूसरा दिन प्रोफेसर द्वारा वितरित किया गया था। प्रोफेसर असलम महमूद जवाहरलाल नेहरू यूनिवर्सिटी के पूर्व प्रोफेसर रहे हैं। वह भूगोल और सांख्यिकी के मात्रात्मक तरीकों में माहिर हैं और जेएनयू में 35 वर्षों से भी अधिक वर्षों तक इस विषय को पढ़ा रहे थे। उनकी पुस्तक, जिसका नाम स्टैटिस्टिकल मेथड्स इन ज्योग्राफी स्टडीज है, में कई प्रकार की तकनीकों को शामिल किया गया है जो आमतौर पर क्षेत्रीय विश्लेषकों द्वारा उपयोग की जाती है और उन्हें एक सरलीकृत गणितीय भाषा में प्रस्तुत करती हैं। प्रोफेसर महमूद ने सत्र की शुरुआत सांख्यिकीय विश्लेषण और सामाजिक विज्ञान अनुसंधान में इसके महत्व के बारे में एक संक्षिप्त परिचय के साथ की है। उन्होंने बताया कि सहसंबंध और प्रतिगमन विश्लेषण पूरे सांख्यिकीय विश्लेषण के 2 महत्वपूर्ण दृष्टिकोण हैं। उन्होंने यह भी जोर दिया कि सांख्यिकीय विश्लेषण सामाजिक विज्ञान अनुसंधान के अनुभवजन्य दृष्टिकोण पर आधारित है। इसके अलावा सांख्यिकीय विश्लेषण सैद्धांतिक आधार पर पालन करने के लिए बाध्य है। उन्होंने बिखरे हुए भूखंडों की प्रकृति का पता लगाया और चित्रमय प्रस्तुति के माध्यम से 2 चर के रिश्तों की डिग्री का विश्लेषण किया। उन्होंने डिग्री दिशा के साथ साथ 0, 1 श्रृंखला के सकारात्मक और नकारात्मक सहसंबंध को भी अच्छे से समझाया। इसके अलावा प्रोफेसर महमूद ने परीक्षण के महत्व के बारे में बताया, जो परीक्षण के मूल्य को बेअसर करता है। उन्होंने चित्रमय प्रस्तुति के माध्यम से साधारण वर्ग प्रतिगमन के वक्र के माध्यम से लेस्टर स्क्वायर विधि की व्याख्या की। उन्होंने x और y बिंदुओं के बीच एक अनुमानित रेखा प्रस्तुत की, जिसे x पर y के प्रतिगमन x और y अक्ष के बीच कम से कम अंतर के वर्ग का पता लगाने के लिए उपयोग किया जाता है। उन्होंने x और y चर के मूल्य का पता लगाने के लिए समीकरण दिया। y चर की गणना करने के लिए उन्होंने सांख्यिकीय चरणों के बारे में भी बात की। उन्होंने टी टेस्ट विधि, मानक त्रुटि का अनुपात, p के मूल्य और r वर्ग की गणना पर भी चर्चा की। प्रोफेसर महमूद ने सांख्यिकीय विश्लेषण में r वर्ग की भूमिका की व्याख्या की। r वर्ग प्रतिगमन रेखा की व्याख्या करता है, जो यह बताता है कि क्या यह उच्च, मध्यम या निम्न शक्तिशाली है। उन्होंने एक सूत्र के माध्यम से प्रतिगमन विश्लेषण की गणना करने के तरीकों पर भी चर्चा की। इसके अलावा उन्होंने सामान्य वितरण और बहुस्तरीयता की अवधारणा पर चर्चा की। उन्होंने बाइनरी वेरिएबल, डमी वेरिएबल्स और उनकी गणना को लॉजिक रिग्रेशन के माध्यम से भी समझाया। अंत में उन्होंने विशेष प्रतिगमन के बारे में संक्षेप में बात की, जिसकी गणना हाल ही में लॉन्च किए गए जियोदा सॉफ्टवेयर के माध्यम से की जा सकती है। सत्र के अंत में प्रतिभागियों ने प्रोफेसर महमूद के समक्ष अपने संदेह और प्रश्न रखे। कुछ महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न सामान्य वितरण, भौगोलिक मैट्रिक्स से संबंधित थे। अंत में सत्र का समापन डॉक्टर जितेंद्र डी सोनी द्वारा प्रस्तुत किया गया और एक संक्षिप्त रूपरेखा पर प्रकाश डाला गया। सत्र डॉक्टर ओपी सैनी द्वारा धन्यवाद के औपचारिक वोट के साथ बंद किया गया। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू डॉक्टर मोनिका।
थैंक यू सर।
आपने बहुत ही सुंदर शब्दों में हिंदी और अंग्रेजी दोनों में रिपोर्ट का प्रस्तुतीकरण किया। मैं तहे दिल से आपका शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं। और अब मैं हमारे जो आज की गेस्ट हैं डॉक्टर इयात्ता एम उप्रेती, मैं उनको बुलाने से पहले गुजारिश करूंगा हमारी जो कोर्स कोऑर्डिनेटर हैं डॉक्टर रेनू पूनिया से कि वो इस सत्र का मॉडरेशन करें, मैडम को आमंत्रित करें, उनका इंट्रोडक्शन दें और उसके बाद सत्र को आगे बढ़ाएं।
धन्यवाद जितेंद्र डी सोनी सर। सबसे पहले तो दिवाली की सभी को शुभकामनाएं। जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स 104 पार्टिसिपेंट्स हमसे अब तक जुड़ चुके हैं और ये एक बहुत ही खूबसूरत बात है कि धीरे धीरे हमने जिस तरह से दिवाली के हर एक पल को एंजॉय किया है, ठीक वैसे ही हम हमारे इस कोर्स के प्रति भी डेडिकेटेड हैं और हम पुनः उस लय में जल्दी आने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं जो लय हमने दिवाली से पहले पकड़ रखी थी। आज की हमारी जो वक्ता हैं वो डॉक्टर इयाता एम उप्रेती हैं, और इयाता मैम तडोंग सिक्किम से है हमारे बीच में ये, और शी इज एसोसिएट प्रोफेसर इन डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ ज्योग्राफी. Before joining Tadong College, she worked as Principal Government College, Renok. She actually the thing or the reason behind her success to be a part of this course also is that she is a project scientist in G.V. Pant Institute of Himalayan Environment and Development in BCN, USAID and IDRC funded projects on Sikkim biodiversity and ecotourism. She has 24 years of experience in research and development in Himalayan region, and her area of interest are ecotourism, community development, sustainable tourism, climate change, valuation of ecosystem services and disaster management. She worked as a sustainable tourism consultant for Department of Tourism, Government of Sikkim, and in the Pro-Poor Sustainable Development Project in collaboration with the ICI MOD Nepal and SNV Netherlands. She was awarded PhD in 2000 on the topic Economic Benefits and Conservation Linkages from Tourism Development in the Sikkim Himalaya. She has guided 5 MPhil and 1 PhD research scholar. She is so young, and the number doesn't matter because her work is so diverse, and her dedication towards the research is very, very appreciable also. So she is also writing course modules for IGNOU, Sikkim University, VMU, and she has contributed the first chapter in Sikkim Gazetteer, Government of Sikkim in 2013. She has more than 50 national international publications in reputed journals, and many more she has to included in her biodata. But this time we don't want to reduce her time to be benefited from her lecture. And after 3 typically statistical based lectures, it is our privilege that she is here, and definitely she will remove all our doubts about the empirical research, and especially she focused here on the skills of field work. So without wasting time a lot, I submit my heartfelt welcome to Dr. Iyatta ma'am. Ma'am, you are welcomed here, and now the forum is yours, but a request from all the participants that as far as possible you be bilingual, because we have participants from throughout the India, and we have more than 70% participants from the Hindi belt of our country. So if it is possible, so please be bilingual. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening to everyone. Hope the voice is audible.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madam Renu, Dr. Renu, for the introduction. And I'm truly humbled, Dr. Jitendra Soni, for inviting me to be a part of this long program, orientation program. And I'm truly honored to share my views with the young faculties and the resource scholar from across the country. So मैं कोशिश करूंगी मेरी तरफ से, but then I'll because the flow will be mostly in Hindi, but in any sequence, in any pace, if you think that I must stop and talk in Hindi, kindly feel free to like just unmute yourself and tell me to explain it in Hindi, because that normal flow will be in English. So I beg your pardon before that, but then yes, आपको जब भी जरूरत लगेगा, आपको लगेगा कि नहीं हमें इसको हिंदी में समझना है, तो आप please feel free to interrupt and raise your issue, so that I will explain the same thing again in Hindi. But then what I believe, because we are dealing with all the faculties and resource scholars, so you are like friends. I don't have to explain in that way. And I think it will be more of a discourse than a discussion. It's not a lecture. I believe I will learn also. It's like, because in teaching and learning and research, it's a perennial process of learning and teaching. I think, and this session, whatever I will discuss, And the same time, I'll also learn from you. And it won't be a more of a lecture. It is, I believe it is more of a discussion with all of you. And why I specified, I emphasized more on the field work, because now, like, I started my work 24, 25 years back. At that time, we used to do a rigorous field work. I remember I worked in a very difficult terrain in the high altitude of Himalaya. And that was so much. And we don't have distractions like these days with the internet, WhatsApp, Facebook, and all this social media and all. We are so focused, and we don't have so much of access to literature also. So and we are so focused in the fieldwork. So my emphasis and my focus will be to motivate all of you to, now the pandemic time is there, but then once things become normalized, how we can spend more time in the field and collect very efficient and valuable information, and how to analyze it qualitatively and also quantitatively. Because sir was telling me we have faculties from different streams, from sociology, from literature, from Hindi. So आप लोग समझते होंगे कि नहीं, ज्योग्राफी में तो चाहिए फील्ड वर्क, हमें लिटरेचर में क्यों चाहिए? नहीं, लिटरेचर में भी उतना ही चाहिए होता है। जैसे आप अगर एक फोकस्ड ग्रुप ले लेते हैं, उनसे कुछ आप if you take some of their feedback on any topic, whether it is say gender, say it's about say environmental justice, or any kind of thing, then that becomes the research more interesting. And that's what I will focus more on, the field studies tools. So with that, I will start the slides. Is that okay? Should I proceed now? Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am.
So as already it is mentioned, the topic will be on empirical research in social sciences and skills in fieldwork. So when we say empirical research, in empirical research, the researcher arrives at outcome by testing his or her empirical evidence using qualitative or quantitative methods of observation as determined by the nature of the research. An empirical research study is set apart from other research approaches by its methodology and features. Hence, it is important for every researcher to know what constitutes this investigation method. So again, I would like to highlight empirical research में हमें क्यों focus देना empirical research, because I think most of you have know about the sampling techniques. If not, also I will just highlight little. In sampling, we do two type of things: a qualitative. I have detailed slides on that also. So a qualitative, a quantitative. Quantitative means we quantify, we collect data and we do the analysis of the mean, median, standard deviation, whatever. Qualitative is basically our observation. And that makes very important. So before going in detail, I want to tell you, those of you those already completed their research, when you do any short, your minor research or major research also, and those who are doing it, the resource scholar, before starting your research, it is very advisable, from my experience, I'm telling you, to start some PRA, that is the participatory rural appraisal, and some social mapping. In social mapping, what happened when you do a social mapping, आप क्या करते हैं उसमें, you involve people from different age group, the elderly people, the students, the homemaker, the young, the panchayat, the policymakers, the official, and you do a social mapping of the area. Social mapping mein you ask them what was the scenario 10 years back or 15 years back, looking at the focused group who all are there. And then you draw a picture of, like, okay, so let's take the example of Sikhar, Rajasthan. So 15 साल पहले कैसा था वो जगह, और आप जहाँ पे रिसर्च कर रहे हो, after 10 years, how they want to see. So this is they will say, okay, these are the things that is available 15 years back. These were the things that we want after 10 years. And that makes the research really focused, and okay, these are and that gives you a very first-hand idea about the whole area. When I started my research, I want to tell you from the thing, it was a very difficult terrain in the high altitude of Himalaya, that is the Yoksam village, and that's the people are in many times 24 years back, the documentation of data in Sikkim was also a bit negligible. Now it is in a more authenticated way. So how to collect the thing, that is by social mapping and PRA. So if anyone want to ask in details about that, you can feel free to ask me when we have the question answer session. Now, what is empirical research? Empirical research is a type of research methodology that makes use of verifiable evidence in order to arrive at research outcome. In other words, this type of research relies solely on evidence obtained through observation of scientific data collection. And this can be carried out using, I have already said, qualitative or quantitative observation method, depending on the data sample that is quantifiable data or non-numerical data. And unlike theoretical research that depends on preconceived notions, like for example, I'll give you example of say political science or say literature. You want to do a study on literature of some eminent personality. I'll just name say about Tagore and some Ramadevi Burma or any other, sorry, Mahadevi Burma and any other eminent personality. So you already have documented fact about that, and on that basis you do it. Whereas when we do empirical research, the focus will be more on the kind of data that we'll collect by ourselves from the field and do the analysis for our further research work. Now, how this concept of empirical research originated? So, and this is very important in all the fields. In geography, we mainly focus on this, but I believe this is also applicable to sociology, political science, literature, psychology, all other things. So there, the quote says, I quote, "I will not believe it unless I see it." So that should be the main focus of a researcher. Like when we are doing any kind of quantitative or qualitative observation, like how to come to a conclusion, how to suggest certain things without being there in the field. And that's what this quote is very pertinent on that thing. So this came from the ancient empiricist, a fundamental understanding that powered the emergence of medieval science during the Renaissance period and laid the foundation of modern science as we know it today. And the word itself has its roots in Greek, and it is derived from the Greek word empirikos, which meaning experienced. So I collect the information, and then I evaluate all those things, and then I analyze all those things, then I come to the conclusion. That's what empirical research is all about. पहले मुझे I'll go directly to the field. मुझे field में जाके what is my area of thing, what I want to do, what is the new thing that I want to find out. There's so many people already worked on different things. And then I do the observation. That's what I give you the example of PRA, participatory rural appraisal and social mapping, जहाँ पे हम लोगों को इकट्ठे करते हैं और उन्हीं से, जिस जगह में हम रिसर्च करते हैं, उन्हीं से ही हम उनके तत्व, उनके जो फैक्ट्स है, उनके जो फोकलोर से, जो उनके जो कहानियां हैं, उससे भी हम बहुत सारे कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन प्राप्त कर सकते हैं. In today's world, the word empirical refers to collection of data using evidence that is collected through observation or experience or by using calibrated scientific instruments. All of the above origin have one thing in common, which is dependence of observation and experiments to collect data and test them to come up with conclusion. Then characteristics of empirical research. Is it going well, or should I stop for some questions, Dr. Soni?
Ma'am, questions we'll take at the end. It's
okay,
going
so
well.
yeah.
But if you can do the slideshow, the slide will be more visible.
Okay, the full screen you mean to say?
Yeah, slideshow.
Okay, fine. We are so used to of this normal classroom, at times you feel suffocated, no, when we are not getting response from the other side. That's what I thought. If required, in between I will stop, and if they want to ask question, otherwise I'll go and I'll finish it off, and then we'll take the question.
Yeah, at the end we'll take the questions.
Fine. So okay. Okay, so this is okay now?
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Renu ma'am. So now the characteristics of empirical research. And these are the basic things that you have already done in your coursework and all. So an empirical research begin with a set of research questions that guide the investigation, and to find out this research question constitute the research hypothesis, which is testing using quantitative and qualitative as required by the nature of the research. And in an empirical research study, the research questions are built around the core of the research. That is the central use which is the research seeks to resolve. They also determine the course of the research by highlighting the specific objectives and aim of the systematic investigation. Here, I want to highlight one thing. Many times now, many of my students, those who are doing their higher studies, they come to me and then they will ask, like, "Madam, suggest what kind of research should I do?" But my dear friends, I want to say here, like, never ask your supervisor or your, we can take the suggestion, but then never ask what should you do, because I believe our research is a thing, is one of the most prized possession of a academician, of a researcher. And you need to ask yourself, like, you take ample time, you take, like 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, but then you ask yourself, what is the thing that you really want to do? What are the things that you really want to study? Because that will be there with you for your lifetime. And then there are like when I started, I think economic benefits and conservation linkages from tourism development in the Sikkim Himalayas. So I spent 6 months, more than, I mean, at a stretch 15 to 20 days. And I used to collect information. Then I used to ask myself every day what I'm going to do. So don't do in a hurry. And then looking at the scenario at that time, I developed my hypothesis in consultation with my mentors and supervisor. Who are the people who is showing interest in conservation and why they are showing interest. So the hypothesis is, people, those who are getting benefited from tourism, they are the one who are showing more interest in conservation than the others. Just example I'm giving. So that's what, when you do a research question, you take ample time in the field and with review of literature, and you find out who are the people who worked on that arena where you want to work. Then you build your hypothesis. Then the definition of the research variables. The research variables are clearly defined in terms of their population, types of characteristics, and behaviors. In other words, the data is clearly delimited and placed with the context of the research. Now, the description of the research methodology. An empirical research also clearly outlines the methods adopted in the systematic investigation. Each process is described in detail, including the selection criteria for the data sample, qualitative or quantitative research methods, plus testing instruments. Once again, I want to just remind all of you, you must have, did little bit of studies on the sampling techniques, where we have the probability and the non-probability sampling methods. In the probability, we worked on the different kind of the systematic random sampling, the stratified. Then in the non-probability, we have all the snowball and the convenient kind of thing. So again, you do ample review of literature, but at the end, what kind of sampling techniques is favorable for your research question, for your hypothesis, is solely yours. So for that, you have to spend enough time in the field and your data collection. Sometimes what happened, you collected data, I'm telling you an experience. Sometimes you collect lots of data, and after 6 months you analyze and you come to know that, okay, this is not the thing that I'm really looking for. So no issues. Don't get don't think that, okay, there is wastage of time. That can be utilized for any other chapters also. But then do the things. If it is not answering, or if it is not satisfying your hypothesis, the point that you want to do, don't hesitate to go for another kind of thing in the first year. I'm telling you, after that it won't be possible. And then an empirical research also clearly outlines the methods adopted in the systematic investigation. Here, the research process is described in detail, including the selection criteria. That's what I was telling about the sampling techniques for the data sample, qualitative or quantitative research method, plus testing instruments. Sometimes you are doing a chi-square, or you're doing any kind of a t hypothesis, a regression, and at the end it is showing something else. Like when I was doing the valuation of ecosystem services, I was doing a willingness to pay method, and I did the review of literature of Periyar National Park in Kerala, then the Yellowstone National Park, and their research is very different. But then that gives you some kind of guidelines, like this is the way they are doing it, this is the kind of problem they are facing during their thing, and that give you a really good evidence and good suggestions about what are the things that you need to rectify and what are things that you need to put in your empirical research. And empirical research is usually divided into 4 parts, which are the introduction, methodology, the findings, and discussions. And the introduction provide a background of the empirical study, which while the methodology describes the research design, process, and tools for the systematic investigation. And the findings refers to the research outcomes, and they can be outlined as statistical data or in the form of information obtained through the qualitative observation of research variables, and the discussion highlights the significance of the study and its contributions to knowledge. Now there are 6 steps. There are so many steps. Actually, it's up to the researcher to decide. So I'm just talking about steps. Anyone asking anything?
Ma'am, I'm just requesting you to be bilingual. I
Yes,
mean, the slide you explained only in
oh
English.
sorry, oh sorry, oh sorry. मैंने हिंदी में बताया जैसे अभी लग रहा है. Okay, thank you for reminding me. Should I go back to the previous slide to explain anything in
That
Hindi?
will be okay. People will connect with you.
Fine. Should I explain it once again?
If it is possible, then you can give a summary of that.
Okay, in the previous slide?
Yeah.
Okay, just 1 second. Okay. Qualitative, quantitative is क्या बोलते हैं सर इसको quantitative को?
मैम
What is
गुणात्मक और मात्रात्मक है, लेकिन इतनी इंग्लिश तो चलेगी.
हाँ, गुणात्मक. So basically qualitative means, see, like say I'll give you example. आप जब आपके कॉलेज का देखते हैं कि like I want to see the happiness index of my college. So that cannot be quantitative. उसमें आपको qualitative करना पड़ेगा. आप happiness आपके हिसाब से आप किस measures को लेके happiness आपका, I'm just giving a, suppose आप चाहते हैं कि आपके कॉलेज में 24/7 वाटर सप्लाई हो, जो कि हम बहुत हम लोग we give more focus on the teaching, learning, instrument, infrastructure, but the basic needs. अगर आपके कॉलेज में 24/7 वाटर सप्लाई है, तो that is my perspective. I'll say that should be the number 1 for a happiness index. Then आपके library should be the most a well equipped library. So ये सब आपका आ जाएगा qualitative things आप जब करेंगे. Quantitative में अगर आप happiness index में करना चाहते हैं, तो आप उनको ranking देना पड़ेगा. बच्चों को आप पूछेंगे कि चलो हमारे कॉलेज में अगर I mean say water supply, so what are the ranking that you are giving? So you have a matrix 1 to 10 or maybe say 1 to 5, उसमें से आप matrix दो 4, 5, 3. So that way, and that becomes your quantitative observations. So and one thing what I was telling in this slide is that आप किसी भी जब भी आप रिसर्च आपका करते हैं, तो आप किसी भी क्या बोलते हैं उसको हरी जल्दी में नहीं, मुझे तो 5 साल के अंदर मुझे जैसे भी हो मेरा रिसर्च कंप्लीट करना है, मुझे मेरे गाइड को जल्दी से जल्दी दिखा के सबमिट करना है, वो मत कीजिए. क्योंकि हमारे लिए हमारे जो रिसर्चर्स हम लोग हैं, जो एकेडमिशियंस हैं, so हमारे एक this is a God given gift to us, that this is the most prized possession in our life. I believe that कि हमारा सबसे ज्यादा कुछ चीज अहमियत रखता है तो हमारा रिसर्च वर्क है, और हमारा पीएचडी थीसिस सबसे ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस रखता है. उसके बाद हमारे जो पब्लिकेशंस होती है वो भी रखते हैं. तो आप इसमें जब काम करते हैं तो आप इसमें I mean आप feel free to have a trial and error kind of thing. आप डेटा कलेक्शन कीजिए, क्वालिटेटिव हो या क्वांटिटेटिव चाहे हो, अगर उसमें आपको जो आप चाहते हैं, अगर उस कंक्लूजन में आप आ नहीं पा रहे, तो आप रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर ज्यादा से ज्यादा पढ़िए. रीड इट शुड बी अ वोरासियस रीडर. बहुत ही ज्यादा आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा. जो चीज again I want to say, but now we also get distracted because everything is like we are doing a class in WhatsApp, we are doing a class in Zoom, so there's so much of distraction is there. But then reading is very important. And again I will say, आप आपका research question जब बनाते हैं, methodology hypothesis करते हैं, जब किसी भी चीज hurriedly मत कीजिए. Take ample time and tell yourself that this is going to be there with me for my lifetime, and this should be a qualitative, a work of high quality, and at the end of the day, every day when I think of my work, it should give me satisfaction. सर उतना हिंदी में तो हो जाता है, इतना मेरे इंग्लिश में तो ठीक है शायद. Should I
Yes, yes,
proceed?
ma'am. No, no, yeah,
Yeah.
you can proceed.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. uh, okay, so depth में इसको करना चाहते हैं, that is there, but then here in overall I've just given 6 steps. So number 1 is define the purpose of the research. This is the step where the researcher has to answer. This is the same thing I was telling previously. This is the step where the researcher has to answer questions like what exactly do I want to find out? मुझे research करनी क्यों है? मुझे सिर्फ डॉक्टरेट चाहिए? नहीं, मुझे मेरे प्रमोशन के लिए चाहिए, मुझे मेरा कैरियर एडवांसमेंट के लिए चाहिए? नो, इन रियली आई एम इंटरेस्टेड इन रिसर्च. अगर आपका लास्ट आंसर आपका आता है तो आपके लिए कर रहेगा, rather if it is coming something else. I believe so as a researcher. Because I'm telling you from my experience, when I was working as a principal from last 2.5 years, the suffocation used to be there at the end of the day. What I'm doing, all administration. क्योंकि हम as a researcher, as a academician, हमें खुशी उसी में होती है जब we are in interaction with the faculties, with the student, with the research scholar, and that gives us the what you call optimum satisfaction. So so what is the problem statement? What I'm going to find research क्यों किसके लिए कर रही हूँ? What are the things that I am going to find out? So are there any issues in terms of the availability of knowledge, data, time, or resources? And will this research be more beneficial than what it will cost? And before going ahead, a researcher has to clearly define his or her purpose. To tell all of you, आप आपका work plan बनाए. So अगर आपको I'm just giving you, so those who have already awarded with PhD and all, it's well and good, but whenever you're doing any kind of research work, whether it's a ICSSR research project or AGC research project also, आपका work plan, even for your teaching also, आप लोग करते ही हैं, लेकिन कभी-कभी this is sometimes neglected, but then work plan is very important. एक work plan आपको बनाना पड़ेगा कि आपका every month, what I'm going to do this month. So January, February, March, I'm going to spend in field, or say January I'll spend in field, February I come back and do the analysis. That is not possible. आप 6 months के बाद ही analysis कर सकते हैं. Generally what happened, what I've seen now in many of our young researcher, few of them, I will not say many, what they do, they just go once to the field, they collect random data, they come out, अब हो गया, अब मैंने तो 150 household का कर लिया, and that's all, now I need to analyze. No, in a research you have to at least go and do process after 1 year, at least 3 times आपको करना पड़ेगा, so that will authenticate your things, and that will be वो आपको आपका error level को भी घटाने के लिए आपको help करेगा, and that is very much required. Generally many times it happened in many of the things, like in a very difficult situation, someone is working on a glacier, so it's not possible for him or her to do the things in a repeated way. But then जैसे साइंस लैब में वो लोग रिपीटेडली करते हैं, वैसे ही कुछ चीज में हमें उसका we have to do, I mean in a 6-month gap or 1 year gap, before coming to the conclusion we have to do the process, and that's what a work plan is very important. आप work plan बना के आपका किस एरिया किस मंथ में आपको फील्ड वर्क करना है, which are the month that you want to analyze the data, review of literature, and one more thing very important, whenever you're doing reading something interesting, sometimes what happens is there the internet, I will do it later on, but kindly write down up, keep the habit of writing. Whenever you are reading something very important and you think that I'm going to put it in my reference, in my bibliography, please write it down, because many times that will create problem. You have to cite the reference of that particular author, but then somehow you have not written the reference because you thought it will be available later on. So whenever you are reading anything and you're doing it, so it is there in the internet, it is there now, the things are very techno savvy, but still this conventional method will really helpful to you. Write down the things that, okay, for this proper particular portion, I refer this one, and I'm going to refer this person, and that will really help you, whether it is literature, whether it is psychology, history, irrespective of what is your subject. Then the number 2 steps, supporting theories and relevant literature. The research needs to find out that theories which can be linked to his research problem. He has to figure out if any theory can help him support his findings. All kind of relevant literature will help the researcher to find if there are others who have researched this before, or what are the problems faced during this research. The researcher will also have to set up assumption and also find out if there is any history regarding his research problem. So here another thing is that suppose I'm working on mountainous area, so let me not just concentrate on Aravalli. Suppose मैं अरावली एरिया में कर रही हूँ, सिर्फ अरावली का ही मुझे नहीं लेना है, मुझे देखना है हिमालय में कैसे हो रहा है, सतलज में कैसे हो रहा है. सपोज मैं आई एम वर्किंग ऑन ए प्लेन एरिया और इन ए वेरी ड्राई लैंड, सो मुझे सिर्फ राजस्थान का ही नहीं या तो गुजरात की नहीं, उड़ीसा की नहीं, आई हैव टू फाइंड आउट अबाउट द फाइंडिंग्स ऑफ डिफरेंट स्टेट्स इन इंडिया एंड also the global context, what is going on in the North America, in Africa, in European countries, other parts. That way what will happen, you'll get many times you find it's irrelevant, like why I need to study so much. But trust me, dear young researchers, parents and faculties, it will really help you to build up your ideas. I read a literature from Sri Lanka when I was doing my first publications, and I was so fortunate to, I want to cite that example of Professor S.C. Rai, Delhi University. He is now the head of the department in Department of Geography, was my supervisor. So we walked a lot, and after 3 years analyze, and I took reference of this someone who worked in Sri Lanka, someone who worked in Kerala, in Yellowstone, and then I come up with my valuation article. And I'm so lucky and fortunate that it was published in Environmental Conservation. That was my first publication in such a reputed journal. I mean, and that because, and I give to the field work, the rigorous field work. So much of data we have collected, I have collected, my friends, and that really helps. So kindly do, kindly be a voracious reader, do a lot of study of literature review. Sometimes if you collected data, you have now in our time, we used to go to Delhi, to Almora, to Kolkata, to different archives to collect literature, photocopy them, bring it them, and travel in the train, and then bring all those materials. Now things have changed. Everything is in the access of your fingertips. So don't hesitate to download all those PDF and go through all those things which is available. And that will really help you widen your horizon and your learning thing. आप जितने ज़्यादा पढ़ोगे, जितने ज़्यादा आप reference लोगे, आपका जो thinking process है, the horizon of your thinking will be expand, वो ज़्यादा बढ़ेगा, और आप उससे बहुत ही अच्छा आपका research finding होगा, और आप at the end of the day you'll feel good. And so kindly आप लोग ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उसको download करके पढ़िए भी. Or and if you are in a conventional thing, because now also we do all the PDF and all, but then the real satisfaction when you turn pages. So जब भी आपको मौका मिलता है तो आप real book से real photocopy करके कीजिए, or that will give you more satisfaction. Though it sounds very conventional, but I'll stick to that conventional thing. Do that, and that will really help you brighten your, expanding your horizon of learning. Then the number 3 is creation of hypothesis and measurement. Before beginning the actual result, and to provide, like to find out, before framing a proper hypothesis, you just find out what are the things, what are the variables that I'm going to measure in this hypothesis. And sometimes you want to do something, whether it will be helpful, whether it will be helpful for further development of that area, or that focused of that research. So when you do your hypothesis, you have to be very sensible about the consequences, about both the end of the hypothesis. I mean, whether it will be really beneficial for my research work as a whole, when I'll do the probable outcome of my research work, whether it will be beneficial for the community as a whole, because our research should not be beneficial for ourselves only. हमें अपने रिसर्च से सिर्फ अपने आप का पब्लिकेशंस, अपने आप का ही डेवलपमेंट नहीं, बल्कि कम्युनिटी, हमारे जो कम्युनिटी है, हमारे जो व्हाट डू यू कॉल, लोग हैं, उनको फायदामंद होना चाहिए, जो सोसाइटी है उनको फायदामंद होना चाहिए, जो एकेडमिशियंस है, जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, उन्हें फायदामंद होना चाहिए, so that research make any sense. Okay, and the 4 step is methodology, research, design, and data collection. In this step, the researcher has to define a strategy for conducting his research. He or she has to set up experiment to collect data. which will enable him to propose the hypothesis. The researcher will decide whether he will need experimental or non-experimental method of conducting the research. Sometimes what happen, आप कुछ hypothesis बनाना चाहते हो, लेकिन that will come as null or void. Yeah, no, I mean you have collected data, you have frame a hypothesis, but then that वो आपको कहीं ले नहीं जा रहा है, आपको कहीं मतलब कुछ ठोस conclusion में नहीं पहुंच पा रहे हैं. So you I mean you forget about that, you start adapting something new by taking some new sampling techniques or qualitative or quantitative data. But then if it is not giving you the kind of thing that you want, sometimes you frame a hypothesis and you expected something to come out, but it never come out, but something interesting come out, so it's well and good. But then if your hypothesis is not coming to any conclusion, it's just for the namesake a hypothesis there, then it's pointless to have that kind of a hypothesis. So you can always need to go back and start taking some other techniques to collect the samples and then reframe your hypothesis. The number 5 is data analysis and result. Data analysis two ways, qualitative and quantitative. So quantitative hai, that is again, like so much of economics, so much of calculation is there, but then जो हमें interesting result देता है वो qualitative, आपका observation जो आपको मैंने बताया, social mapping and PRA. So आपकी जितनी qualitative research होती है वो आपको बहुत ही ज़्यादा finding देता है. वो you must be thinking like I'll give you example of say those who are mainly focused on field work, like say economics, geography and maybe sociology and all. But then आप जब आपका writing start करोगे, when you write your chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you start writing your thesis, then it is pointless. What I'm observing is something like you observe community wise or caste wise or say religion wise, some kind of variations in people way of perceiving things, people way of conserving things. Like I'll say when I was doing my research in Sikkim, there's some concept of Buddhist people who follow Buddhist religion, people who are Hindu, have different kind of way of thinking and conserving things. So जैसे आपकी जो research area है, आपकी जो research field है, field में जब आप जाते हो, any kind of observation that you see, or maybe elderly का perception different है, young का different है, gender wise the women perceive things in a very different way, what to call, the male take it in a very different way. Like I'll just give you I'm a political, I don't like to discuss much about politics. Like take the example of the Bihar election, and they say Nitish Kumar's victory is just because more of the women voters, because he banned the alcohol over there. So those kind of observations that is cannot be quantified, but then you observe that as a researcher. आपने observe किया है, तो आप kindly वो सब आपका जो डायरी आप मेंटेन करते हैं, रिसर्च डायरी, फील्ड डायरी, उसमें आप काइंडली लिखिए, so that when you start writing your thesis, that will be really helpful in elaborating the things, because sometimes as a human being we have the tendency to forget. So it is very much important to jot down all the qualitative observations. जितने आपका गुणात्मक observations होती है, जो आप observe करते हैं as a researcher, as a person, आप काइंडली इफ यू फील ऑकवर्ड, कभी होता है कि आप किसी को आप इंटरव्यू ले रहे हो और आप उनको ज्यादा अटेंशन नहीं देते हो, या आप उनको रिकॉर्ड करते हो तो वो कंफर्टेबल नहीं होते हैं, तो आप सुनिए, तभी आप आपका माइंड डिस्टर्ब नहीं करके ध्यान से सुनिए उनको. लेकिन एंड ऑफ द डे बिफोर स्लीपिंग यू राइट डाउन ऑल दोस पॉइंट, दैट विल रियली हेल्प यू ड्यूरिंग योर writing process. And that's also a very important part generally that is neglected in data analysis. And the last step is the conclusion. A report will need to be made with the findings of the research. The researcher can give the theories and literature that support his or her research, and can make suggestions or recommendations for further research on his topic. And again here the focus should be more on the benefit of the community, how the society and the community as a whole will get benefited from my research. Okay. Then the empirical research data collection methods. This is already more or less we have discussed it. again the same, this thing will come again and again, the qualitative and quantitative things when we talk about the empirical research. So the following are the common methods of gathering data in empirical research. First है आपका survey and questionnaire. Questionnaire is a very important form by which you collect a kind of information that is needed. But then उसमें आपका जब भी आप क्वेश्चन बनाते हैं, whether it is close ended, open ended, तो उसमें आप ऑब्जर्वेशंस के लिए भी जगह रखिए. मेनली व्हाट हैपेंड nowadays we get questions from any research scholar, they send us through Gmail, through WhatsApp, through other forum, and but then there's no space like where I can write my view. So आप जब भी आप कोई भी क्वेश्चनर डेवलप करते हैं, उसी में एक स्पेस आप रखिए, maybe at the last question, question number 10, 15, whatever your last question, what is the person's the person who is giving the interview, what is his observation about all this thing that you are doing, what is his concept about the thing that you're doing, and that will give you, when you analyze the thing, that will really give you a more broader idea about the thing that you're doing, the whatever your research you're doing in that area. So आप जब भी आप करते हैं, आपके जो क्वेश्चन होती है, जैसे जैसे आप पूछते हैं कि like are you satisfied with the development of this area, so आपका close हो गया, so he'll say either yes or no. लेकिन जैसे आपका बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन में आप उनको ऑप्शंस दीजिए, लाइक यस 100%, 75%, 45%, 30%, उसमें आपका एक स्ट्रैटेजी हो जाता है, आपको एक रैंकिंग मिल जाता है कि ओके, सो देन आपको एनालाइज करने में इट विल बी इजियर फॉर यू, आपको बेहतर हो जाता है कि आपके पास एक स्ट्रैटिफाइड वे में है कि नहीं सारे यस और नो. So that becomes very blunt and very, sometimes the research findings become very annoying also, like there's a yes or a no, but then always keep options for their observations, for their response, so that will be more interesting for you to gather information. And also when you analyze the data, that becomes really, really more helpful. You can develop the metrics, if you have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of ranking, or any kind of ranking that you feel feasible for your study. उसके बाद वही है experiment. In empirical data can also be collected by carrying out an experiment. So generally why I'm telling you this is in many science subjects they do that, no, they experiment it even in many geographical things also, when we do a soil erosion kind of study, or maybe in a economics, or maybe in a psychology, when they do the behavioral kind of study, like they say, okay, these are the nature of a person who is going through depression, so they already have a preconceived notion कि जिन लोगों को डिप्रेशन है उनकी ये what you say symptoms रहता है, लेकिन but that is your, as a researcher, that is your observation. So आप थोड़ा सा open भी रखिए कि other new symptoms maybe also you can see that the people is not vocal about it, but आप जब research करते हो, जब आप उन्हें interview लेते हो, that can be observed, So an experiment is a controlled simulation in which one or more of the research variables is manipulated using a set of interconnected processes in order to confirm or refute the research hypothesis. An experiment is also a useful method for measuring causality, that is the cause and effect between the dependent and independent variables. Okay, dependent independent variables की जैसे कि डिप्रेशन किस चीज से होता है, सपोज आप अगर एक युवा यंग ग्रुप लेके जा रहे हो कि चलो नहीं, मुझे मेरे पास ये फोन होना चाहिए, मेरे पास इतने पॉकेट मनी होना चाहिए, दिस होना चाहिए, so that will give me happiness. I'm just looking at the present scenario I'm telling, but then and then you keep something else also, what are the other things, so let the respondent tell you that okay, these are the extra thing that gives me extra satisfaction, so that will add that will add to your experimentation process. So it is an integral data gathering method in an empirical research study, because it involves testing calculated assumptions in order to arrive at the most valid data and research outcomes. Then another is case study. The case study method is another common data gathering method. So इसमें this is very important. तो आप जैसे आप लेते हो कि I'll tell you one example. suppose आप लेते हैं एक particular किसी भी village, in that village people are they are doing organic farming and they are self-sustained, they are not using anything, any fertilizer, any other thing. So आप एक case study लेके देखिए कि इस जगह में, जिस जगह पे गांव में उन्होंने किया, so उनका क्या क्या हुआ. So maybe the farmer will tell you, yes, we did organic farming, but these are the problem. We have all this weed, we have all this you know, like all this क्या बोलते हैं उसको, क्या बोलते हैं, जो आपके फसल को खराब कर देते हैं. So these are the problems we faced which cannot be through the organic process. So आपका एक केस स्टडी अगर आप लेते हो किसी भी चीज में, सपोज आप जैसे भी जैसे in any other subject, in the sociology, economics, history, literature, whatever thing, so it's better to take a case study, find out if anyone has done any kind of study in that area. If not, find out relevant. आप देखिए केस स्टडी उस तरीके, आपका जो रिसर्च है, आपका जो हाइपोथेसिस है, आपका जो रिसर्च इंटरेस्ट है, जो टॉपिक है, उस टॉपिक में केस स्टडी किस किस जगह में हुआ है, इंडिया की किस किस जगह में हुआ है. सो देन अगेन यू फाइंड आउट हिंद कुश हिमालय रीजन में और से साउथ ईस्ट एशिया में कहाँ कहाँ पे हुआ है. देन यू गो थ्रू द ब्रोडर इन ए ग्लोबल कंसेप्ट कि सारे वर्ल्ड में किस किस जगह में हुआ है. देन यू स्टडी इट, देन यू टेक द feedback from all those findings, and that will be helpful for your observations and coming to a conclusion. And the observational method is a method of qualitative data gathering that requires the researcher to study the behavior of research variables in their natural environment in order to gather relevant information that can serve as empirical data. I already said this one in the previous thing. मैंने आपको बताया कि आप पेन एंड पेपर में लिखिए. So this is the thing. आपका जो qualitative observation है, जब आप 5 लोग को रिसर्च पूछ रहे हैं, तो उसमें आप मे बी आप चाहते हैं कि your focused group is only the women. So when you're asking the women, maybe the male are interfering, or the male are telling in their in their sign language, like not to be very vocal about things. You must observe that. So आप वो सब लिखिए कि the women, though they are very vocal about their issues, but then they are not allowed to share their views. I'll tell you from one of my example. We are doing a UNICEF survey in Bhubaneswar. It was about contraceptive measures and family planning and child care. So there, when we, this is basically in a slum area. So when we ask the slum dwellers, the rickshaw pullers, and the other, like the below poverty line group people, so many, they are hesitant, and then again you have to come into you have to talk really very friendly, and then you have to ask them whether they are okay with the thing. If they say yes, then only you need to proceed. So there, what I observe, the male, like if the surveyor is a female, then the male are really, they're interested to say about the things, about the family planning, about the thing, child care and all this thing. But when the women is coming forward and like want to say, like, this is the thing, why the male is the male members are hesitant of the contraceptive or whatever things, then they become mad, and there is a lot of hot discussions also occurred and all. So those are the things. At that time you focus on your interview and specify all those things, but these are the observation. You come back and write down. That will add to your research findings. So this is the thing. Like gender, in many times we generally, this is a very neglected thing. We generally don't write much about the gender scenario, but when we take interview, we always see this, like that. And as a researcher, as a researcher who is spending time in field, or whether it's a theoretical thing also, you need to analyze from your own perspective, from your own perception, what your mind is saying, and write down all those things. And when you do your analysis of your chapter wise, when you write down, that will be more beneficial, and that will really help you, like when you do the analysis of the whole finding, that will really very helpful in explaining and coming to a very what I'll say, a very strong conclusion, like this is the thing that is happening while collecting the data or while doing the research. So I am almost coming to the end of the thing. So this is the cycle, the empirical research methodology cycle. So the first one is your observation, which is very important. It's very important what you observe, and you need to be many things you don't have to say about it. And then as a researcher, as a surveyor, you need to be very calm, and you should not react to their thing. Let them speak. You just listen to them, and then don't give your opinion, or don't आप उनको जबरदस्ती आप ही के हिसाब से सोचने के लिए मजबूर मत कीजिए. आप उनसे सुनिए, And that is the most important thing of a researcher. आप उनसे सुनिए कि वो कहना क्या चाहते हैं. So you need to be a very good observer. So first is the observation, then your induction. You're coming, okay, after my observation, I'm coming to this. Okay, then your deduction, then your testing, then you evaluate the things. So आपका सबसे ज़्यादा important जो empirical research methodology cycle में होता है कि आपका observation, आप जितने एक keen observant होंगे उतना ही आपको ठोस आपका outcome आएगा. Now the advantages of empirical research, it's flexible in this type of systematic investigation. The researcher can adjust the research methodology, including the sample size, the gathering methods, plus the data analysis method is necessitated by the research process. And it helps research to understand how the research outcome can be influenced by different research environment. An empirical research study helps the researcher to develop relevant analytical and observation skills that can be useful in dynamic research context. इसमें आपका एक flexibility रहता है कि आप change कर सकते हैं. अगर आप आपके research का जो आपका जो thought है, जो आपका idea है, अगर वो fulfill नहीं हो पा रहा है, तो you can always that flexibility is there, that dynamics is there. So that is the most approachable things of the empirical research. And this type of research approach allow the researcher to control multiple research variables in order to arrive at the most relevant research outcome. And empirical research is widely considered as one of the most authentic and competent research designs, because in the beginning only we say, I see, then only I believe, because I'm going to the field, I'm collecting the data, whether it is qualitative, whether it is quantitative. मैं खुद जाके वो सब खुद ही collect की हूँ, so I know how it is coming. So that is the most authentic, that makes it more authentic. And you know at the end of your work that yes, it is authenticated by me, and you know it is not, I'm not doing a copy and paste of kind of any other's work, it is my work. But yes, I took reference of different literature, different review to support my think, like I want to come up to something, but then I just so आप दूसरों के जो काम किए हैं उनका आप reference लीजिए, लेकिन at the end of the day you know that this is your own work and you yourself validated and authenticated the work, and that is the most advantageous thing of empirical research. And the last one is it improves the internal validity of traditional research using a variety of experiment and research observation methods. So why I'm focusing on the traditional research thing is that abhi at the present context, what is happening, it's more again techno savvy, people are asking through the mail, through the thing, so उसमें आपको authenticate आप नहीं कर पाते, आप observe नहीं कर पाते हैं, और आपका जो मेल में आया, जो किसी ने respond किया, या तो टेलीफोनिक अगर आप कर रहे हैं टेलीफोनिक वे से करके, तो आप उनका वैल्यू उनका जो उनका what do you call कॉन्सेप्ट है, जो उनका व्यूज है वो आपने you have jotted down all those things. लेकिन एक जो एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च जब आप खुद करते हैं, तो ट्रेडिशनल रिसर्च क्या होता है कि यू आर इन कॉन्टैक्ट विद द रेस्पोंडेंट, एंड दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. और रेस्पोंडेंट से देख के, उनके सराउंडिंग्स देख के, उनके एरिया देख के, वो जगह जहाँ पे आप रिसर्च करते हैं वहाँ पे आप टाइम स्पेंड करते हैं, करके यू कम आउट विद लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, लॉट ऑफ ऑब्जर्वेशन that will be very helpful for you. जो कि आप अगर एक very modernized way में करते हैं, तो आपको ट्रेडिशनल जो रिसर्च का जो फाइंडिंग्स होता है, जो ऑब्जर्वेशन होता है, उसमें you are lacking behind from that. So that's what it's very important. Now we are going through all this pandemic time. It's difficult at times to do the research work also, but then with all the SOP, we can do that. But in the coming years, I'm hopeful all of us, all our young scholars, we also will spend more time in the field and come up with more, valuable empirical research things. Narendra Jaiswal raised hand. आप कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, नरेंद्र जयसवाल? हेलो.
मैम एक्चुअली जो सेटिंग है हमारी वो को होस्ट और होस्ट के लिए ही ओपन है. तो अगर वो कुछ पूछना चाहते हैं तो उनसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि वो चैट बॉक्स के अंदर अपनी क्वेरीज डाल दें, हम आप तक कन्वे कर देंगे.
ओके, सो मैडम आप उनको बता देंगे वही बात?
हाँ, वो सुन लिया उन्होंने ये चीज.
ओके फाइन. जी जी. I'm still, sometimes you go back to the traditional things only. The online thing also sometimes it's so demanding. Anyway, so should we take a pause or something, or should I finish now? I have 2-3 slides. Yeah.
Ma'am, continue please.
Continue कर लें?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Still, you have 20 minutes with you.
Okay.
So no
Okay.
problem. Yes.
So again, the way I said, no, like once all this thing is there, it will be more beneficial when we do a interactive kind of thing. Yeah. So now the disadvantage. So the disadvantage of empirical research is that again, you know, it's money. जो सबसे ज़्यादा important है कि पैसा का आपका खर्च. So an empirical research study is time consuming because the researcher need to gather the empirical data from multiple resources, which typically takes a lot of time. So अगर आपका एक funded project में आप काम कर रहे हो, या you are a employee and you're not married, I'm telling you, again, if you are married with all those, you know, your what you call obligations, then it will be difficult. So if you're a single person and you can really spend a good time in the field and also money, that makes your thing more effective. And like when we are doing my thing, when I was working as a project scientist, as a part of that, we are doing the research. So all the funding done by the USAID, the BCN. So the financial thing was never a constraint. I can always take 5 porter along with me to carry the things, to do the research. I can stay as many days I want. All those that you know, the don'ts were not there, only do's were there. So, but then in many kind I had seen the researcher is very good, they really want to do the work, but then sometimes the financial constraints are there. So that is one of the most disadvantaged thing in the empirical research, because your financial thing play a really important role. And that sometimes a hindrances also, and that takes, and when you do the disadvantage is that takes a lot of your time. Suppose you want to say कि चलो एक हफ्ते में तो मुझे 200 हाउसहोल्ड कवर करना है, बट इट मे हैपन कि आप एक हफ्ते में 50 घर ही कर सकते हैं या 60 घर ही कर सकते हैं. सो that is there. So you need to have that time plan with you. Whatever you plan, that may not come to things. Maybe someday it is raining, or someday it is something happened. There is a somebody died in that particular village, and the people are not in a mood to talk with you, or some kind of gathering is there, and a marriage is there. You cannot meet people. I mean, people are all busy there. So आप वो सब लेके चलिए कि ये सब मतलब I mean, this may linger my collection of data process. Number 2, it is not a cost effective, as I have already said, research approach. Usually this method of research incurs a lot of cost because of the monetary demand of the field research. So it may be difficult to gather the needed empirical data sample because of the multiple data gathering methods employed in an empirical research study. And it may be difficult to gain access to some communities and institutions where the research this if I'll give the information, अगर मैं उन्हें information share करती हूँ तो maybe मुझे anti government कहा जा सकता है, और anti some particular party or some community. So वो सब रहता है. So this is the most important part of a research. You need to show your personality in such a way that people must take you very seriously and think that you are apolitical, you are beyond any kind of inclination to anything, and whatever information they will share with you, it is safe and it is completely for academic purpose and for the development of the country or for the region as a whole. वो सब बहुत ही अहमियत रखता है. जब आप रिसर्च कोई भी फील्ड में जाते हो तो लोगों को वो कन्विंस करवाना बहुत जरूरी होता है कि आप उनसे जो इन्फॉर्मेशन कलेक्ट करते हो, सो उसी में से जो इन्फॉर्मेशन देके उन्हें कोई दुविधा नहीं होने वाली, उन्हें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी. Then they will give you the real authenticate very valid information, and that is very important for a researcher to show themselves, to present themselves in such a way that the respondents will be comfortable in giving you response. But it may happen sometimes people they just outright they deny you, नहीं हमें आपसे नहीं बात करनी है, हमें आपको information नहीं देनी है. So it's well and good, you find out some other way how to collect it, but then don't forcefully never collect any information that is beyond the research ethics. मुझे शायद रिसर्च एथिक्स में सर किसी ने किए होंगे ना सर, रेणु मैडम, डॉक्टर सोनी?
Ma'am, this will come in the next month.
Yeah, that is very important. That is very important because that is something that will make the findings and all the work of higher importance. So वो ethics हमें as a researcher, as a academician, as a research scholar हमें वो हमेशा रखना है कि हमारा research ethics जो है वो dilute नहीं होना चाहिए. It should be intact because I'm doing something, I'm working something not only for my personal benefit, but my priority is कि मैं ये benefit for the larger masses, for the society, for the community I'm doing it, and then you'll get really very good response. And the last one is the report from an empirical research study is intensive and can be very lengthy in nature. Sometimes वही हो जाता है कि आप कुछ जो आपका जो findings है, sometimes it becomes very lengthy, unlike where you are not spending time and you have just collected from some theoretical thing or some other observation. जब आप खुद जाते हैं field में, sometimes आपका observations lengthy हो जाता है. Then why is there a need for empirical research? Empirical research is important in today's world because it's believe in something only that can see, hear, or experience. It is used to validate multiple hypotheses and increase human knowledge, and continue doing it to keep advancing in various fields. So वही है कि आप खुद authenticate करते हैं, and then you are satisfied, and you know, like you're telling the like you're telling the right thing, and you come up with the right conclusion. So with the advancement in today's world, empirical research has become critical as well as a norm in many fields, so as to support their hypothesis and gain more knowledge. The methods mentioned above are very useful for carrying out such research. However, a number of new methods will keep coming up as the nature of new investigative question keeps getting unique or changes. So another very important thing in empirical research is that just don't stick up to the preconceived thing. आपने कहीं पे पढ़ा, रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर किए हैं, आप कहीं से इंटरनेट से डाउनलोड किए, देखें और उसी तरीके से जाना नहीं. In empirical research, you as a surveyor, you as a researcher has a lot of freedom to change it and frame it as per your convenient, as per the benefit of your research. So to conclude, empirical research is an important method for systematic investigation because it gives the researcher the opportunity to test the validity of different assumptions in the form of hypothesis, and before arriving at any findings. Hence, it is a more research approach, and there are different quantitative and qualitative methods of data gathering employed during an empirical research study based on the purpose of the research, which include survey, experiments, and various observatory methods. Surveys are one of the most common method or empirical data collection, and they can be administered online or physically. So that's all about it. I really wanted to show some of the case study and some of the video and pictures during our field work, but then again we have the time limit things. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We have 15 to 20 minutes. अगर आपके इसी डेस्कटॉप पे हैं तो आप वो पिक्चर्स हमारे साथ और पार्टिसिपेंट्स के साथ शेयर कर सकते हैं, मैम.
That is, I have not saved it here. This is, yeah, I'm using my son's laptop. That's what it was creating problem, mine was showing some problem. So I have all those things. Later on, maybe if anyone is interested, I can always share it through Dr. Soni or आप किसी से भी अगर कोई किसी को, and I can send some PRA and that published PRA that we did during our research work. It's quite a bulky PRA thing is also there, and the social mapping research material also I do have. I can share all those things later on.
All these things are in PDF form. Do you have in soft copy?
A few of the things is there in EC Mode website, EC Mode Nepal. I can give you the link. They have a lot of things that is in a very articulated way. And a few, the one that we did, I have to find out whether it is there in PDF or not, but then I can always share the reference and the link. But then if you'll go to www.ecmod.org, they have ample number of studies on this social mapping, participatory rural appraisal, and it is accessible to everyone. You can be a member of EC Mode, and all the study materials, all the research finding is available to everyone, and they will also mail you every they publish the newsletter every month, and every and then annual publications also they will send it to the person who subscribe to their publications.
Thank you, ma'am. So before taking questions from the participants, I'm just going to summarize your lecture.
Yeah.
और इसमें कोशिश करूंगी मैं इसकी ज्यादा से ज्यादा मैं इसको हिंदी में समराइज करूं। तो मैम ने अपना जो लेक्चर स्टार्ट किया वो उसका टॉपिक था एम्पेरिकल रिसर्च इन सोशल साइंस स्किल्स ऑफ फील्ड वर्क। हम जानते हैं कि एम्पेरिकल रिसर्च जब हम करते हैं तो उसके लिए फील्ड वर्क का इम्पोर्टेंस बहुत जबरदस्त होती है। अगर हम क्षेत्र में जाए बिना आंकड़ों के ऊपर ही रिसर्च करना चाहें तो हम उन ऊंचाइयों तक नहीं पहुंच सकते जिन तक एक सच्चे रिसर्चर को पहुंचना चाहिए। तो सबसे पहले मैम ने अपना लेक्चर जो शुरू किया उसमें व्हाट इज एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च से स्टार्ट किया, और इन्होंने बताया कि रिसर्च को शुरू करने का जो प्रारंभ करना चाहिए, प्रारंभिक जो पायदान है इसको शुरू करने का, वो पार्टिसिपेटरी यानी जिसको हम कह सकते हैं पीआरए के फॉर्म में होना चाहिए। एक सोशल मैपिंग के द्वारा वो चीज क्लियर होनी चाहिए और रिसर्चर को स्टेप बाय स्टेप ही आगे बढ़ना चाहिए, क्योंकि इस तरह की जो एम्पेरिकल रिसर्च होती है उसमें पूरा का पूरा जो रिजल्ट होता है वो आउटकम पे डिपेंड करता है कि हमारा आउटकम क्या निकलेगा। तो आउटकम अगर सही है या सही डायरेक्शन में है तो हमारी पूरी रिसर्च जो है वो सक्सेस रहेगी। उसके बाद आपने बताया कि रिसर्च, एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च का ओरिजिन कैसे हुआ, तो ये ग्रीक वर्ड है जिसका अर्थ ही एक्सपीरियंस था। तो जैसे यानी जिस तरह का फील्ड में हम एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं उसी को ही रिसर्च के आउटकम के रूप में लिया जाए तो उसी को ही हम एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च के फॉर्म में लेंगे। उसके बाद मैम ने यहाँ पे कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स यानी गुणों के बारे में चर्चा की, जिसमें बताया कि सबसे पहला जो गुण है वो रिसर्च क्वेश्चन से रिलेटेड है, और आपने ये भी बताया कि रिसर्च क्वेश्चन फ्रेमिंग यानी रिसर्च क्वेश्चन का जो निर्माण किया जाएगा वो निर्माण करने से पहले हमें एक अच्छा खासा फील्ड का अध्ययन कर लेना चाहिए, क्योंकि हमारी पूरी रिसर्च का जो आधार होता है वो वही रिसर्च क्वेश्चन होता है। उसके बाद में रिसर्च वेरिएबल्स के बारे में बात आई, तो मैम ने बताया कि जितने भी शोध किए जाते हैं उनके लिए हम जिन भी तत्वों के बारे में बात करेंगे वो सब पहले से डिफाइन होने चाहिए। अगर हम उन्हें पहले से ही लेकर के नहीं चलेंगे या पहले से डिफाइन करके नहीं चलेंगे तो रिसर्च के दौरान हमें बहुत सारी समस्याओं का सामना करना पड़ सकता है। उसी के बाद में उन्होंने बताया कि एक मेंटल मैपिंग होनी चाहिए, यानी आपके दिमाग में आपका रिसर्च किस डायरेक्शन में जाएगा, कौन सी मेथोडोलॉजी होगी, मेथड्स यूज में करेंगे और किस तरह से हमारा रिजल्ट आउटकम के रूप में बाहर आएगा। ये पूरी एक फ्रेमिंग जो है ये आपके दिमाग में पहले से तैयार हो जानी चाहिए। कहते भी है कि रिसर्च जो है वो पेपर पे आने से पहले रिसर्चर के दिमाग में बन जाती है। तो रिसर्च प्रारंभ करते ही आपके दिमाग में ये सारे स्टेप्स क्लियर होने चाहिए। उसके बाद आपने बताया कि एक आउटलाइन, जो रिसर्च की आउटलाइन होती है वो आउटलाइन 4 बेसिक हेडिंग्स के आधार पर होती है। पहला इंट्रोडक्शन, जिसमें हम उस टॉपिक के बैकग्राउंड के बारे में भी बात करते हैं, लिटरेचर रिव्यू के बारे में भी बात करते हैं। दूसरा होता है मेथोडोलॉजी, जिसमें हम ये बात करते हैं कि रिसर्च डिजाइन हमारा क्या रहेगा, किस तरह से हमारी रिसर्च आगे बढ़ेगी और किस तरह से हमारे रिजल्ट जो है वो निकल के सामने आ सकते हैं। उसके बाद थर्ड नंबर पे फाइंडिंग्स, यानी हमें क्या उस रिसर्च के परिणाम क्या रहे, हमें क्या मिला, उसके बारे में बात। और उसके बाद में डिस्कशन। देखिए रिसर्च, मैम के अनुसार रिसर्च कोई भी कर सकता है, लेकिन रिसर्च का जो डिस्कशन है, जो आखिरी पॉइंट है कि उस तरह के परिणाम का असर क्या रहेगा, वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है और वही एक सच्चा रिसर्चर की पहचान है। वो उस डिस्कशन वाले पार्ट से क्लियर होता है कि आपने कितना समय रिसर्च में दिया है। उसके बाद आपने एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च के कुछ स्टेप्स बताए हैं। पहले स्टेप में आपने बताया कि रिसर्च का पर्पस जो है वो सबसे पहले डिफाइन होना चाहिए, और रिसर्च फील्ड में ऐसा नहीं है, जैसा इन्होंने एग्जांपल दिया और हम भी अपने आसपास के रिसर्चर को देखते हैं कि बच्चे फील्ड में जाते हैं, वहां से डेटा कलेक्ट कर लेते हैं और फिर वापस आ जाते हैं। अच्छा, उनको अगर ये लिख के दिया जाता है कि बेटा कम से कम 80 से 100 घर आपको रिसर्च में अपना कवर करना है, तो जैसे ही उनका 80 हुआ वो वापस भाग के आ जाएंगे कि बस हमारा 80 हो गया कंप्लीट, जो टारगेट आपने दिया वो हमारा हो गया। लेकिन उस टारगेट से हमें जो रिजल्ट चाहिए, अगर वो नहीं मिल रहे हैं तो हमें फिर से फील्ड में जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि जो डेटा हमें मिला है, अगर डेटा हमारा रिसर्च क्वेश्चन को यानी हमारी हाइपोथेसिस को अगर सेटिस्फाई नहीं कर रहा है, तो रिसर्च, पूरी रिसर्च को खराब करने से बेहतर है कि हम थोड़ा सा टाइम फिर से फील्ड में लगा दें, ताकि बेहतर रिजल्ट जो है वो हमारे सामने आ सके। उसके बाद में सेकंड स्टेप जो बताया वो है कि थ्योरीज जो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट कर रही हैं, सपोर्टिंग थ्योरीज और रिलेवेंट लिटरेचर जो है उन पर हमें फोकस करना है, ताकि हमारी जो रिसर्च है वो इस सोसाइटी के बेनिफिट के लिए इररिलेवेंट ना हो जाए। तो ऑलरेडी जो उस टॉपिक पे काम हो चुका है, उससे रिलेटेड जो थ्योरीज बन चुकी हैं, हम उन्हें सपोर्ट में लेते हुए हम हमारा जो रिजल्ट या आउटकम आए उसको हम क्लियर करें। इसी तरह से आपने यहाँ पर लिटरेचर रिव्यू को भी बहुत एम्फेसाइज किया है और ये भी बताया कि किस तरह से मैम जब रिसर्च कर रही थी तो फिजिकली फील्ड में जाकर के लिटरेचर को कलेक्ट करना पड़ रहा था, बट वी आर इनफ लकी कि नेट अवेलेबिलिटी हमारे पास है, और इसीलिए बहुत सारी चीजें हमारे पास ऑन अ सिंगल क्लिक है। हाँ, वो एक अलग बात है कि मटेरियल होने के बाद भी हमें उस चीज को समझने के लिए, एक्सप्लेन करने के लिए कुछ इंडिजिनस एग्जांपल्स जो हैं वो लेने होते हैं। उसके बाद थर्ड स्टेप जो है वो आपने बताया कि हाइपोथेसिस का क्रिएशन और उसके मेजरमेंट के लिए क्लियर जो है वो आपको थर्ड स्टेप के तौर पे वहां पे बनाना चाहिए। फोर्थ स्टेप यानी चौथा चरण जो था वो मेथोडोलॉजी, रिसर्च डिजाइन और डेटा कलेक्शन से रिलेटेड है। ये वो पार्ट है जब हम फील्ड में जाकर के काम करते हैं और डेटा कलेक्ट करने के बाद में हम उसको सॉर्टिंग करते हैं, एडिटिंग करते हैं, उसका टेबुलेशन किया जाता है, और उसके बाद में फिर हमारा जो फिफ्थ पार्ट आता है वो आता है डेटा एनालिसिस का। यानी रिजल्ट जो परिणाम की प्राप्ति है उसका जो एनालिसिस किया जाएगा वो यहाँ पर आता है। तो यहाँ रिजल्ट एनालिसिस की या डेटा एनालिसिस की जो बात आती है वो क्वालिटेटिव और क्वांटिटेटिव दोनों बात है। किसी भी तरह से रिजल्ट आए, लेकिन जो क्वांटिटेटिव रिजल्ट्स हैं वो मैम की नजर में उतने उपयोगी नहीं रहते हैं जितने कि समाज को दिशा प्रदान करने में क्वालिटेटिव या गुणात्मक रहते हैं। यहाँ पे आपने बिहार इलेक्शन का भी एक एग्जाम्पल लिया और बहुत ही खूबसूरत तरीके से उसे इस टॉपिक के साथ जोड़ते हुए आपने कि बहुत ही जिसको मैं कहूँ कि इजी तरीके से इन दोनों चीजों को कनेक्ट किया। आपने ये भी कहा कि फील्ड में जब हम जाते हैं तो हमें एक डायरी मेंटेन करनी चाहिए हमेशा, और वही डायरी जो होती है वो हमारा रिजल्ट एनालिसिस के अंदर, या जिसको हम कहें कि हम जो परिणामों को अपने रिसर्च को जब एनालाइज करने लगते हैं, हम जब रिपोर्ट लिखने लगते हैं, तो उसके अंदर वो डायरी हमारे लिए बहुत ज्यादा उपयोगी रहती है। और सिक्स्थ और इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट जो आपने बताया रिसर्च का वो कंक्लूजन था। ये इसके साथ आपने आगे की तरफ डेटा कलेक्शन मेथड्स के बारे में बात की। मेथड्स में आपने बताया कि डेटा कलेक्शन के बहुत सारे मेथड्स हैं, जिसमें क्वेश्चनियर, एक्सपेरिमेंट, केस स्टडी, ऑब्जर्वेशन, इन सारी चीजों को लिया। क्वेश्चनियर में आपने ये बात बहुत जोर देके कही कि ओपन एंडेड क्वेश्चंस होने चाहिए, ताकि जिनसे हम रिसर्च क्वेश्चंस कर रहे हैं उनके पास इतनी स्वतंत्रता हो कि वो अपनी बात को वहां पर लिख सके। सिर्फ यस और नो में नहीं होना चाहिए चीज, ऑप्शंस ज्यादा होनी चाहिए। एक्सपेरिमेंट बेस पे आपने बताया कि चूंकि ये कंट्रोल्ड सिमुलेशंस होते हैं और कॉज एंड इफेक्ट को डिफाइन करने के लिए बहुत अच्छे होते हैं, इसलिए स्पेशली उन सोशल साइंस के उन सब्जेक्ट्स में या उन टॉपिक में जहां पर हमें किसी का इफेक्ट जानने के लिए कुछ कॉज देना होता है, तो वहां पर हमें एक्सपेरिमेंट बेस्ड जो डेटा कलेक्शन है वो जरूर करना चाहिए। उसके बाद आपने केस स्टडी की बात की और उसमें ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग इन अ विलेज, एक गांव के अंदर ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग वाला एग्जांपल लेकर के आपने यहाँ केस स्टडी की बात की थी। और मतलब ये पूरी बातों में मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि केस स्टडी इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाती है कि वही हमें यथार्थ में ले जाती है और वहां से फील्ड से रियल डेटा कलेक्शन करने का मौका हमें प्रदान करती है। इसके बाद आपने ऑब्जर्वेशन की बात की और ये ऑब्जर्वेशन में ये कहा कि जितने भी जिस भी सैंपल एरिया पे हम काम करना चाहते हैं, अगर उसको उसी के एनवायरनमेंट में हम ऑब्जर्व करते हुए कलेक्शन करते हैं डेटा, तो हमें रियल डेटा मिल सकते हैं। क्योंकि बहुत बार क्वेश्चनियर्स में जब आदमी फिल करता है, ऑफ कोर्स औरत ऑल्सो, तो उसमें ये होता है कि वो कुछ मैनिपुलेशन शुरू हो जाता है। मतलब उसे लगता है कि मैं ऐसा लिखूं तो मेरी अच्छा इमेज जाएगा, जबकि ऑब्जर्वेशन में हमें पता चल जाता है कि रियलिटी क्या है। तो ऑब्जर्वेशन पर ज्यादा ध्यान देने की बात आपने कही। उसके बाद आपने एक साइकिल बताया कि किस तरह से पूरी 5-6 चीजें जो है वो एक साइक्लिक फॉर्म में एक दूसरे से जुड़ी हुई हैं इस पूरी रिसर्च में। तो वो था ऑब्जर्वेशन, देन इंडक्शन, डिडक्शन, टेस्टिंग और इवेल्युएशन। मतलब इवेल्युएशन एक रिसर्चर का एंड पॉइंट होता है, वो वहाँ इवेल्युएट करने के लिए या रिजल्ट आउटकम्स जो है वो फील्ड में देने की बात करता है। लेकिन हर एक स्टेप पर अगर थोड़ी सी भी कमी रह जाती है तो उसका अल्टीमेट जो इम्पैक्ट है वो इवेल्युएशन पे पड़ेगा। इसलिए हमें हर एक स्टेप पे सावधानी रखनी है, स्पेशली ऑब्जर्वेशन पर। तो ऑब्जर्वेंट हमें हमेशा रहना है, ये बात मैम ने जोड़ दे के कही। उसके बाद मैम ने 3 चीजों को लिया, एडवांटेज ऑफ एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च, डिसएडवांटेज और लास्ट था नीड ऑफ एम्पिरिकल रिसर्च। तो एडवांटेज में बहुत सारी बातें दूसरी बात आपने कही कि रिसर्च